You asked him to try one bite, just one. And the look he gave you, you know that look. And quietly, somewhere underneath the frustration, you are wondering whether something you are doing is making this harder than it needs to be. That question is worth taking seriously, because the answer across 80 studies is yes. There are 3 specific habits that reliably make picky eating worse, and there are 3 replacements that just as reliably make it better. That is exactly what you are getting today. The real science and what you do with it this week. A scoping review pulling together 80 separate studies on picky eating identified the parental behaviors that consistently predict more food refusal and the ones that consistently predict less. 80 studies is not one researcher's opinion. It is the closest thing the field has to a consensus. The review distinguished between intrinsic factors, things inside your child like taste sensitivity, and extrinsic factors, the ones you can actually influence. And the extrinsic list is where the 3 habits live. So let us go through them. The first habit is pressure. And if you have ever said just one bite, or you have to eat 3 more pieces before you leave the table, this one is for you. Across the studies in this review, pressuring children to eat is one of the most reliable predictors of increased picky behavior. The mechanism is not mysterious. Pressure signals to a child that eating is something done to them rather than chosen by them. And children, especially toddlers, are wired to resist exactly that. Every time eating becomes a battleground, food refusal gets reinforced as a form of autonomy. So what do you do instead? You stop the negotiation entirely, not with indifference, with neutrality. You put the food on the table, you eat your own meal, you do not comment on what he takes or does not take. No pressure is not giving up. It is removing the mechanism that is actively making this worse. One sentence at the table that helps: you do not have to eat it. It is just there. That is the whole script. The second habit is using food as a reward, and this one is sneaky because it feels so logical. If you eat your broccoli, you can have dessert. The problem is what that sentence actually teaches, that broccoli is the obstacle and dessert is the prize. The review found that food rewards consistently increase a child's rejection of the bad food and inflate their desire for the reward food. You are not just losing the broccoli battle. You are making both foods more emotionally loaded than they need to be. The fix is to serve dessert the same way you serve everything else, as food, not currency. Some families find it helps to put a small dessert on the plate alongside dinner, removing the hierarchy entirely. It sounds counterintuitive. The research says it works because it drains the drama from the whole meal. The third habit is eating separately from your child, and this is the one the review flags as one of the most consistently protective factors when it is changed. Family meals, even brief ones, even imperfect ones, expose children to food variety through something researchers call social modeling. A child watching you eat a roasted pepper is receiving information that no amount of persuasion can deliver, that this is food a person like me eats. The exposure does not have to be long. It does not have to be every night. Even a few shared meals a week, where you are eating the same food at the same table, accumulates into something real. If your schedule makes this hard, the smallest version still counts. Sit down with him for even 10 minutes of your own meal while he eats. The proximity matters more than the perfection. Now, there is one more thing this review highlights that I want to make sure you hear, not as a habit to change, but as a reason to stop being so hard on yourself. The review identifies sensory sensitivity as the top intrinsic factor in picky eating. Taste, smell, texture. Some children are genuinely more sensitive to these inputs than others. This is not defiance. It is not a phase you caused. It is a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do, just at a higher volume than most. Understanding this does not solve the problem overnight, but it changes your response. From frustration, which adds pressure and makes things worse, to accommodation, which removes it. A child who gags on mushy textures is not being dramatic. He is telling you something true about his sensory experience. Meeting him there rather than pushing past it is where progress actually begins. So 3 habits: pressure, food rewards and eating apart, and 3 replacements: neutrality at the table, food served without hierarchy, and sitting together as often as you can manage it. This is what 80 studies point to. You did not cause this, and you have more leverage than you think. If this gave you something useful, subscribe. We do this every week, 1 real study, 1 real struggle, 1 set of things you can actually try. And I want to ask you something specific in the comments. Which of these 3 habits is the hardest one to let go of in your house? Tell me. I read them.